inside of that.
I took the old love language test. Mine's 0% touch.
Yeah. I need to write the dude that wrote that book because I'm not any of it. Guys, welcome to the Built by Vitality podcast. I'm sitting next to Philip Lewis, and I am Steve Pinkerton. That's good. I kind of like doing you first.
Sync. I know.
Yeah. On today's episode, we're going to talk about accountability and how important that is for all facets of your life. But before that, I came in here and I was told that today we have to sit really close to each other.
We normally do anyway, right?
Yeah.
Just a little extra.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. This is a little bit I've got a personal bubble here, like a safety bubble.
Believe me,
you're a little bit inside of that.
I took the old love language test. Mine's 0% touch.
Yeah. I need to write the dude that wrote that book because I'm not any of it.
You got zero on all of them?
Yeah, I suck at all of them.
Okay.
And you know what Jess is? Jess is.
Words of affirmation. Yes. Oh, that is terrible.
If you think of like what I'm the worst at,
you're not going. Oh no!
Have I given you a lot of words of affirmation?
No.
Yeah, I'm not that. I'm just not. I'm nature, not nurture.
I know.
Yep. So anyway, sorry, Jess. Okay, so let's dive right in here. The reason a lot of times I try and I pull on things that happen to me that I think could, I guess, be used as an example of what not to do so I can help other people not make the same mistakes. That's kind of, you go back to how this thing got started. The Built by Vitality podcast was born because of, I was building this 11 or 12 year business. I made so many mistakes and learned so many lessons the hard way. One, because I'm extremely stubborn, but two, just because I didn't have the experience.
And three,
because
you met me.
Oh, yeah. My life, my receding hairline, a lot of people don't believe that I'm 40 years old based on, the way that, the way that I
carry yourself?
Yeah. Until I put my head down.
Oh, no.
And
there's 20-year-olds that don't have no hair.
I don't know, man.
You're jacked,
Mine is really bad. My kid, Reagan, actually had a conversation the other day and asked me, she was so concerned, like, why my head did that. Why I didn't have any hair. She asked you
why your head did that?
Because, if you think, if I put my head down, it just really, So, luckily, I'm 6'5",
so
and nobody really looks down at me and say, So anyway, but yeah. So throughout the 40 years I've been living, I've been fortunate enough or unfortunate enough to have a lot of experiences. But like we've said from the beginning, a lot of failures turn into the ability to turn those failures into some wins down the road because you have experience. And the most recent one that got me thinking was the accountability piece. And I'm fairly regimented. I'm fairly disciplined when it comes to my business, my personal life. I kind of have things scripted out, and I wouldn't say I know what my day is going to be like every single day, but I've got an idea of when I'm going to work out, when I'm going to coach. Yeah. That would you agree?
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah. You're scheduled.
I'm scheduled.
You're organized.
And if you catch me, sometimes, my neighbor Andy will want to talk about, can we just randomly like go out to dinner or something? I don't do that.
Your whole week.
I can't do that. I need some prep for that.
Okay.
I actually saw them a couple weeks ago and they were pulling out of their driveway, and I said, "Where are you going?" They said, "I don't know." I said, "Wait a second. You're going to dinner. You're in the car. You're leaving the driveway, but you don't know where you're going."
Do that?
Never in my life.
Oh, I do that all the time.
Okay, I couldn't do it. And
it's fun. It's like an experience.
I got it, and I'm sure I'm missing out. My life is not fulfilled without it. But the thought of not like knowing where I'm going, so I can start to picture what am I going to order, what am I going to eat, where am I going to sit, So anyway, like I said, I got issues. I'm okay with that.
Relate that to fitness. Sometimes you don't know what you're going to be able to squat that day.
Yeah,
you just got to try it. So I don't know where I'm going.
Squat. I know I'm going to squat.
I know I'm going somewhere.
Okay,
I just don't know where it's going to end.
We'll agree to disagree. So again, let's get back to the accountability piece. What made this come about was I have followed the same nutrition template for 5.5 years. Jess was the first one to start doing keto. She really loved it. And so I started doing the keto thing. And so 5.5 years ago, I started keto, which is crazy to think, but we did. And then about 3 years ago, I started, in addition to the keto, I was fasting. It started 16.8, quickly went to 18.6, and then quickly went to 19.5 because, again, my obsessive compulsive disorder that I have, more is better in my mind, even though a lot of the research talks about, maybe 19.5 or 18.6. There isn't that big of a benefit from 16.8 or whatever. But for me, that's what I did. And it was almost 1,000 days, 1,000 fasts at that. And the average over the last 1,000 days is like 18.9 hours or whatever. So I had a very solidified routine. I knew exactly what was going to happen. I knew when I was going shopping. I knew what I was going to get, where it was going to be, how much I needed to cook. So there was an efficiency piece of this, but I also enjoyed eating what I was eating. And we had joked around, we've done some things in the past over the last couple of years where, Nate tried eating the same size salad as me. And we joked around about the quantity of food and the volume of food I've been eating. But I never really paid attention too much. I just said, you know what, I'm a high fat, low carb, moderate protein guy. I can figure that out. When we first started doing keto, I knew exactly what my numbers were. Well, as you get more comfortable with things, you become, I guess, a little more, not as careful with what you're portioning out because you have an idea in your head of what that food looks like, how much of that food looks like, and you start to just become an autopilot. But like anything else we've talked about, if I take 5 huge steps forward, you can notice the difference. But if I take 1,000 steps of, a centimeter a step, you're never going to know the difference. Yeah. You're not going to be able to visibly see that. But over time, that's when you're going to see the difference. I have a feeling that's what was happening to me. I was slowly adding. I started at, I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of sour cream, a couple tablespoons of butter in my omelet.
Went to like 8 of each.
And it went to, roughly
I've had a couple of those.
A couple gallons of sour cream a day, a week. You've eaten some of the omelets that I've made.
I've had a sour cream omelet, basically.
With salsa and guacamole and some sriracha.
Yeah, about 6 inches thick before you get to the actual omelet.
So, and we've talked, Philip and I joke around, my weight was kind of hovering at around 240, 245, which is, since I stopped competing, that's about the heaviest I've been. And I wasn't super chubby, but maybe I wasn't as lean as I once was. And so I had made some comments in the past, and I took out some things and tried to just make some broad changes. And I finally, about 10 days ago, said, you know what, I'm just going to track my food for a day, see what my macros are, maybe make some small changes, adjustments, and see what happens. So I went through. Jess showed me this app, the Chronometer. It's really brilliant, very similar to MyFitnessPal, I would imagine, or what is that what everybody's using?
I think it is, yeah.
MyFitnessPal. And you just enter in what you're eating, and it tells you your macros. So I was supposed to be around maybe 140 grams of protein, 50 to 60 grams of carbs. I personally think that the longer you're on keto, the higher that carb count can get. I think I could tolerate 70 or 80 and still be within ketosis. And your fat for someone my size is probably 200 to 250 grams. And that's on the high end for sure. Well, I will share with you that my protein was just a shade under 300 grams. Which
so double what it should have been.
About double, more than double what it should have been. Mm-hmm. My carbs were about 160 to 170.
Double.
About double and some change. And my fat was just a tick over 420 grams of fat. So Needless to say,
Thank God you were fasting for 22 hours or whatever it was.
so I looked at that and was like, wow, okay, if this isn't the perfect time to make some changes, obviously I've become a little too comfortable with, using 5 tablespoons of butter every time I cook. And I remember, Jess and I I'd get frustrated with her because she wouldn't use enough butter or avocado oil in the pan, and it would kind of mess up the bottom of my pans. Well, now I understand. Now I'm using the right amount of butter or avocado oil in my...
You're taking the chance of messing up your pans now, right?
Yeah. So it just really opened my eyes to, if you don't have some type of accountability checks and balances, even people that are disciplined, they won't see what's happening because, maybe it would have taken 6 or 8 more months. I don't think I was at 420 grams of fat, for more than a month or two, but well, maybe I was. Over time, when my activity
Built
level
up.
decreased, I would have probably put on a lot more weight.
Oh yeah.
And to me, I just want to feel good. I don't. Sure, everybody wants to look good and be lean and jacked, but I don't think at that level, I don't think my body needed 420 grams of fat to be able to function for the activity level that I had. So this just made me start to realize, the Marine Corps has a thing where it's, inspect what you expect. So we do inspections all the time in the Marine Corps, and it made so much sense because if I have an expectation of my Marines, if I don't check that, if I don't inspect that, then I can't expect to have the result that I want. And with nutrition, that's exactly what happened. I had a goal. I wanted to be healthy. I wanted to be a sustainable, flexible nutrition plan. And I would probably say over 3 years without inspecting that, without doing any type of check and balance with that. And this is exactly what is going to happen to 100% of the people that go 3 years without checking on something.
Because you're getting older too, your activity level changes, your job might change, your stress level changes. And if you keep putting the same stuff in there without checking it, something's going to be different.
Yep.
It can't just stay the same.
And we're just not that, your body, you have this confirmation bias that your brain will convince you of whatever it is you want to do. So if I wanted some casein pudding at night, I would want some whipped cream. I would want some nuts. I would want some chocolate chips. I would want some raspberries. Before you know it, that casein pudding that I think every single person should be having at night with 1 cup of almond milk and 1 cup of casein pudding turns into an additional...
Turns into Dairy Queen.
Yeah, 50 grams of fat and 30 or 40 carbs. So those are things, but I convinced myself, I'm a high-fat diet. I can handle that. It tastes so much better when you cook an omelet in 3-4 tablespoons of butter than 1.
The omelet was good. I always wondered what that shiny, glistening stuff was on the plate when you made it for me. I thought it was some kind of special sauce. Yeah. Now I know.
Just
it
butter.
Was butter and oil, just covered.
And you would think along the way when I'm going to BJ's shopping and getting 3 to 4 tubs of Kerrygold's butter, maybe,
you would know,
just maybe I'm going through a little bit of this, So again, I share that because I would call myself a disciplined person, and even knowing what I know and doing it for as long as I've been doing it, disciplined people almost are at a disadvantage at times because once they get in their routine, it becomes very difficult to change it, and those imperceptible changes, those little adjustments that are made that you're not aware of, you don't see them on a day-over-day basis. Mm-hmm. So by the time you realize that, man, I've made a mistake, it might have been 2 years ago that I started making that mistake. But that's how long it took me because I was so set in, I don't want to change. I feel pretty good. But
this works.
Maybe I felt good because my body wanted, my brain was telling me, hey, as long as I can convince him that he still feels good, they're going to let me eat. He's going to let me eat the same thing I've been eating. And, the changes to my nutrition now, I've cut to 285 grams of protein, 171 carbs, 171 fat.
Sure, basically just cut it back to what it should be.
Yeah, I'm back to. I'm definitely not keto, and I'm not
Because
fasting.
you raised your carbs.
My carbs are 170.
Yeah,
and I haven't
so
had.
you kept those where they were doubled, but you lowered the other stuff.
And I'm eating different carbs. I think, and that's the thing.
You're not
with,
eating like pizza crust carbs. You're eating good like oats
they're good carbs, and I was probably eating good carbs before. It was just. It's that different ratio has such an impact on how you feel and how full I was. Now, after I've been doing this for almost 8 days now, and I'm hungry, but the difference is when I stop eating, I actually am still a little bit hungry. I still could have probably double what I just ate. Only because I'm used to just cramming it in. And I remember leaving here. I'd eat dinner at 2:30 or 2:45, and I'd be finishing up a salad with a bunch of chicken and cheese and avocado. And the last 4 or 5 bites would just be, man, I'm stuffing it down. And now, like I'm picking every crumb out of that salad bowl to get, because I know that I'm going to be hungry. So it's just a reframing of your mindset, and so that to me was what inspired this whole thing, is just to tell you, and it's not just about nutrition, and I'm not, and what I definitely don't want is I don't need people to be obsessive compulsive over their nutrition. Am I weighing and measuring right now? Yes, I am, and I'll do that for another week or so until I can calibrate my brain again, and understand what my portions are supposed to be and what my macros are supposed to be. Then what I'll do is I'll just put it on my calendar. I'll say, hey, in 30 days on that Monday, let's measure and weigh again and see where I'm at and see if I'm tracking the same. But if I don't write that in my calendar, it will not get done. Mm-hmm. It will not. And I don't care I don't care who you are, who's listening, how close you are to Rain Man that can remember everything. If you do not put it in a calendar, you will not remember. Guaranteed.
Or you might remember most things, but something's going to slip by.
You're going to slip it.
Yeah.
And now you're playing the glass balls in the air juggling trick where you hope that what you forget is a rubber ball and a glass ball.
Kind of like I deleted our social media meeting a few weeks back, and I was at Quick Trip, and you called me. Hey, Philip, what are you doing? I said, just getting an amino. You said, well, that's cool. We're starting our meeting. I said, 10-4. I'm on my way back.
That's again, I come back to what is an actionable thing you can do right now. It's write things down in your calendar. Put an email reminder that emails you a day before or the day of or whatever it is. But have that in there, and I live and die by my calendar. If it's not my calendar, it does not get done. So when you want to relate this to the business side, an analogy in business can be, if I don't have a checks and balances or any type of accountability in my finances, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to have a goal of increasing my revenue for 2021. Okay. Well, if I'm talking about gross revenue, which unfortunately a lot of business owners look at gross revenue as hey, I want to be a $1 million business. Well, if you're looking at gross revenue, I think you're looking at the wrong number. That's a whole other conversation. But let's say you are just looking at gross revenue, which I'm assuming that a lot of people are thinking like that. And I think what happens is you're not paying attention to the most important numbers, which is my expenses, which drive my net.
What if your gross number, what if your number is going up, but your expenses are also going up?
Exactly. What do you do? I mean, what if you don't notice things are going that direction, and all of a sudden it's 6 months into the year and you realize your expenses have skyrocketed?
What if your expenses are going up and your gross revenue is going up at the same time at the same rate? You're really not making any progress.
Yep.
You're gonna have to let the expenses, or so you have to figure that out. So your revenue keeps going, but your expenses stay the same or get lower.
I don't want to get too far off into the financial part of this, because this is not going to be a financial podcast, nor am I someone that has the knowledge to tell people how to set their businesses up financially. But I do think one aspect that I see too much is people looking at gross revenues instead of net profits. And I think that could be fixed with some accountability checks, what we like to call KPIs, key performance indicators. And those indicators they're referred to as indicators for a reason, because they're going to indicate whether you're trending the way you want or not. But if we don't establish what our KPIs are, and those KPIs are going to be determined based on what your goals are. If my goal is to increase my revenue, well, for me, and what I would recommend everybody else do, if that's the case, which most businesses, would you agree that their goal year over year is to increase revenue, not gross revenues, but increase their net revenue number, and that profit number. So to me, if that's the case, let's look at expenses. What's easier to do? Grow your business or
be frugal,
manage your expenses? It's 100% your expenses.
You can control that all day.
And what happens is if you don't work on your expenses, you can grow. Let's say we grow from a $700,000 business to an $800,000 business. We might only see $8,000 of that in real cash coming at the end of the year. Is it worth the amount of pain and suffering and anxiety that $100,000 increase caused you? Because when you grow, you're going to increase your stress level, guaranteed. The bigger your business gets, the more stress that goes along with it. And that's not negotiable. You're not going to convince me otherwise. There's not a ton of stress with a $60,000 to $80,000 a year business, because you can control most of that. That's a single operator. That means you don't have that many employees. You don't have that many expenses that you're tracking. You're probably, writing things down and tracking on a piece of paper. But if you're a $2 million business, I guarantee you got payroll, you got a bunch of employees, you got tax guys, you've got a bunch of vendors that you're having to keep up with. Mm-hmm. So understand that when you want to increase your revenue, that you're going to increase your responsibilities and your anxiety level. So to me, before you want to make that jump to increase your revenues, your expenses better be dialed in extremely tight. But again, that comes back to the accountability piece. If I don't identify what my goal is and set some type of accountability in there, then I'm just chasing a random number. Mm-hmm. What if you didn't have a mileage odometer in your car?
Be great. Could trade it in and just lie to them. I've only had it a little bit of time.
I got 20,000 miles on here.
Yeah, this is a 2,000. I'm like, but I hardly ever drove it.
When would you know when to get an oil change?
You wouldn't know any of that.
When would you know how to rotate your tires?
Yeah, a lot of cars now have the oil percentage thing on there, like your oil life. So to start at 100 when you get your oil change, and then you have a reading on there that, it's at 12%, it's at 9%.
And what happens to zero?
It gives you an indicator. It gives you a thing, and it stays on until you get it reset or your oil change.
There's a reason that they do that, because they know not everyone's going to pay attention to that little sticker on the upper left windshield. They need to provide some type of visual reminder of when it's time, and that flashing light that comes on will tell you.
Do you leave that sticker on when you get it?
I do.
You seem like the guy would take it off. I take mine off.
Sometimes I take a picture of it, put it in my phone, and take it off. Yeah. But I still
have it.
With my truck. It was 2010 with 66,000 miles on it.
That's really good, though.
It is, but I've got I get an oil change probably once every 7 or 8 months. But that's just one analogy of how crazy it is when I talk to people and I say, okay, well, what's your goals? And they want to tell me that they want to be $1 million business. And in my mind, $1 million business isn't a gross revenue of $1 million. $1 million business is one that creates that amount of cash when you've paid everything off. Because I don't think that it's that impressive if you have $1 million in revenue and you've got $940,000 in expenses.
A lot of people has heard of that Eric Thomas guy, the hip hop preacher.
E.T.
Guy came up to him one time and was like, E.T., yo, man, I want to make $100,000, man. I want to make $100,000. That's what I want. He's all excited. He's pumped about it. And Eric looked at him and said, well, why not? You better make 200,000. He said, no, I just want 100, man. That's all I want. That's my goal, 100. He said, well, ain't going to be 100 when you get it. Mm-hmm. He said, you better make 200, then maybe you'll get 100. Yeah. He said, you got to look at it differently. And he showed him a different way.
Yeah. And if you can then put those checks and balances in place, and one way to do this on the business side is set up weekly meetings. Every Friday I sit down with Nate and Laura, and we talk about what the KPIs that we came up with for those weekly meetings, and we can start to see these trends. And year over year, Nate will tell me, okay, here's how many new members that we have this month, and we can look at that. What was it like in 2020, 2019, 2018? And the longer that you do this, the more disciplined you are with your accountability, the more data you have to compare to. It's like me and you sit down every Friday and we go through, what does our social media look like? Mm-hmm. What are we doing differently? And that way,
which post did better? Yeah. Which one didn't work? What got more? Yeah.
And if we don't do that, then really I'm just wasting the opportunity to have a social media guy come in here and manage this for me. Because if
is that why we started that?
Yeah.
Just to say, like, I don't even know if I really need Philip
maybe
anymore.
I don't need Philip anymore.
That's great.
That's
great. So I'm going to start lying on that thing. I'm going to be like, we went up 600 followers.
Right now, Laura and I, it's trending to we don't need you, but okay. I think it could bounce back pretty quick.
Great. I'm going to start buying fake followers.
But, that it sounds crazy, but you have to have that. You've got to be able to, if I don't tell Philip, hey, here's what my expectation is, and here's the accountability that we're going to have, it's not going to work. And I think that when you can relate this one more to fitness, if we don't measure our progress, whether it's an in-body scan would be a great way to measure, am I adding muscle, am I dropping fat? But even more simple is baseline workouts, benchmark workouts.
Or any workout. That's one of my biggest things when I coach a class. There's quite a few members that they don't put their score in. I tell them, I try to convince them, like, don't put that in to see where you're at on the lead. Like, if you're not competitive, you don't care, don't worry about that. But if we repeat this again, which most time we will, whether it's a year from now, 2 years, and you pull it back up, how do you even know? What if you didn't feel good that day? What if your knee was bothering you? What if you scaled the weight? You don't have a way to measure it for when you do it again.
Yeah.
Even if you don't put in your actual score, put some notes in the bottom so you know.
And that's where people are missing the boat, where one of the huge advantages of Vitality being around in its 11th year is we've got so much data on our members. The longer that you stick with something, the more experience you're going to have, the more data you're going to have. So there was a workout last week. Somebody had 7 scores in there. So imagine being able to plot that thing out.
And you say this year, that's when I started my new job and I traveled a lot.
Yep.
Next year I was back in town. Like, what happened.
And what happens is when you get better, you'll look back. If you don't put any notes in there, you'd be like, I'm sure I wasn't better than I was 2 years ago. But imagine if you were.
Yeah.
Now
I did this diet and I got this last year. This year I'm on this diet and I did better or worse. Like, you can see what's working.
One thing that was really interesting to me was in late 2017, I started taking in-body scans. That's when we got the scanner. And I did one once every 2 months ever since. So I had like 38 readings. Gosh. And I plotted them. It just took me 5 or 6 minutes, but I put in an Excel file and I just plotted them by date in chronological order. And it was really interesting to see what the trend was. You could see when
you were going down
when the pandemic hit. A lot very stressful. My weight went up, my muscle mass went down, my fat mass or my body fat went up. It was very interesting, and I think that you can put these little accountability checks all over the place just to keep you honest. It's like my kid. we give Reagan a ton of autonomy. Surprise, spoiler alert, I go to bed early. And on most nights, we're in bed, Jess and I are in bed at 8:30, 8:45. We allow Reagan to stay up to about 8:45, 8:50, something like that. Before 9, she's in bed. And I won't even get into, if you're sitting there saying, oh my gosh, that's so early. Let me tell you something. Your kids need to go to bed early, period. That'll be a whole nother podcast. We've already done one on it. I cannot explain to you how vital it is for your kids to get an enormous amount of sleep. But we allow Reagan she brings her iPhone or iPad down before she goes to bed. She plugs it in, she goes back up, and she puts herself to bed. Every once in a while, about once every month maybe, should be more, but once a month for me, I'll go up there at about 9:05, 9 o'clock, and I'll make sure that she's doing what she's supposed to be doing, and she's not FaceTiming some boy that needs his legs broken or whatever it is. But if I don't do that, then I can't be upset if she starts testing the boundaries because I haven't checked it. I haven't put the accountability in there to make her understand that this is important to me. If I never check it, then it must not be important to me.
Think about businesses having God, everybody hates it when a lot of people work 9 to 5s and you sit there, oh, today we got a fire drill, and you're like, my God, you got to go outside, you got to know where the exit is. What if you never have done that? Yeah. People hate that. What if you've never done it? A lot of people say, well, it don't matter if we never done it. No, I'm going out.
Yeah.
I'm going. But think about it. Everybody running at one time, and you don't know where to go because you've never tried it.
It's chaos.
They do it once a month or every couple months. It's fine. Or at school, remember we used to do they make you out in the hallway. Yeah. I don't even know if they do this anymore. They still do this? Reagan them have to do this?
I think they put them in there's a safe room or something.
Remember we used to have to go out in the hallway. You get in the fetal position against the walls and stuff in a big line. What if you never did that? It'd be chaos.
I know. I don't want to get off on a tangent. But I think that, that.
Yeah.
Those brick buildings the schools are in, if those things are coming down, we're in a world of trouble.
That's true.
That's why
that's a really bad tornado
in here
in North Carolina.
It got really windy one day last year, remember? And everybody was like, "Should we go downstairs?" I said, "Listen."
Oh yeah, it sounded like the bay doors are falling down.
If this building collapses, it don't matter if I'm going to be downstairs, upstairs. I could be on the roof for all I care. Yeah. I'm going down.
You're going down. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, that's a great point. That's why you put those things in there so that and you know what, if you didn't do that and there was a time when you had to run some type of drill that wasn't a drill but the real thing, you cannot be upset when it doesn't go your way. That's, again, you go back to the Marine Corps. I cannot be upset if I don't rehearse things. I don't do accountability. Everything in the Marine Corps is accountability. I told you the other day, 2 is 1, 1 is none. That's what we said. That's the deal. If you want to make sure you have something, you better have 2 of them. Because if you have 2 of them, you've really got 1, because at any given time, 1's not going to work. And if you got 1 of something, you might as well assume you got none.
I don't know who said the quote, but it goes back to finances. They were like, if you can't buy it twice, you can't afford it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh,
I like that. I think that whatever it is that you need to be doing, just take a step back and say, okay, whether it's my nutrition, whether it's in my business, at work, whether it's my fitness, maybe it's my home life, something, I have to put something in place to make sure that I'm doing the things that are important to me. And step 1 of that is defining what is important to you. If what's important to you is eating with your kids, then you know what? At the end of the week, you have a little checklist. Was I home 4 nights a week to eat with my kids? If you hit it, then you're on point. If you're like, man, I was 2 this week, 1 last week, 2 this, then I got to make some changes.
Yeah.
So I hope that this opened your eyes a little bit to how easy it is for something to come and get off the tracks. You feel like you're doing everything right, and maybe you are 95% of the time, but that between 1 and 5% over time.
5% over 5 years is a lot.
That's a lot.
Getting off track.
Yeah. And you won't see it on a weekly basis. You just won't. I didn't. Think about it. It took me years.
I've known Steve for a while, and I've never heard him be like, oh, man, my weight's going up. I was like, man, past couple months, he's been bringing up his weight a lot. What's up? I'm going to have to cut this out, man, cut this out. But after 5 years or whatever of doing keto, you noticed it. You're like, something's
Yeah.
a little off maybe. And then you looked and it was off.
Yeah, I just thought I was getting
By
jacked.
double. Just, yeah. Maybe we're doing too much bodybuilding. That's what it was.
So what are we going to do today? We're going to go do bodybuilding workout when we're done here today. No, but I just think that this is a great example of what can happen. Do a little personal assessment in your own life, and I think you'll find that there's some ways to create some accountability that can help you stay on track. Not to be obsessive, but to help you stay on track. There's nothing wrong with making sure that you're on the right path, and we can all benefit from that. So I hope this has helped. Until next time, you can find us on our YouTube channel at Vitality Fitness and iTunes, the Built by Vitality podcast. And if you need more help than that, direct message Philip. He will come to wherever you're at, and he'll load it up for you.
I'll show you.
Yep. All right, guys. Have a great day.